In the second hour of Atlanta Quickly Part 2 to celebrate Uilleann Pipes. And we've got Randy Seelye with us from the Blue Ridge Irish Music School BRIMS ahead of a big event next Saturday. Welcome, Randy.
Thank you so much for having me here. This is incredible.
Thrilled to get you in here, and let's talk about Uilleann Pipes. I'm going to let you spell them so folks can understand how they're spelled versus how they're pronounced.
How do they say Uelleann? So it sounds like Uilleann, but they're pronounced Uilleann.
Like chillin'.
Like chillin', Uilleann. And the Uilleann is an Irish name that most people would say means elbows. And that's just because when you see me play, my elbows are kind of doing different things. So it's a whole body kind of instrument. Even though I'm sitting, there's a lot going on.
Well, when folks hear pipes, they mostly think about the Scottish bagpipes, and there's a big difference between the two of them. Scottish bagpipes. One person said, well, Scottish pipes are all about being militaristic and trying to intimidate folks as they come over the hill, whereas it seems like the Irish pipes are more practical because you're using your elbow to keep the air in them to play.
Yeah, I think they developed in Ireland. There've been bagpipes in Ireland for well over 300 years, but this kind of style that I'm going to play today has pretty much been solid for the last 300, and it kind of evolved around the types of music that was played in Ireland. So obviously the big difference is I'm sitting, I'm not standing. I don't have an air tube in my mouth, so I'm not going to be filling up the bag that way. I've got a bellows, so this would be kind of in the group of bellows-driven pipes. Just like Highland pipes, there are multiple reeds in the parts, the drones that go over the shoulder. There are reeds in each of those, and then there's a reed in what we call the chanter. Well, I have a chanter, and there's a reed in there. There are 3 drones here off to the side, and they each have a reed. But the one big difference, other than that I'm sitting, is there are regulators, and they really help to provide a more complete sound, and they tend to be used either as harmonic accompaniment, or some players use them really as rhythmic accompaniment. The way that they play them adds much more rhythm to the instrument and to the music.
Now, is this kind of like with an accordion where you've got the keys on one side and then you have the bass on the other side? Or just you talk about the regulators, and so I'm trying to...
Yeah, so if you were going to set up to play, I've got my bellows under my right arm, I've got the bag under my left arm, and the melody is played by this in the center that's called a chanter. And then drones... a drone is just a background tone. It doesn't change, and it sounds like this. And then the regulators, which are all of these, they're all brass, but some are silver, mine are brass. They provide additional harmonics. So you add it all together, and the nice thing about this instrument, there's a huge amount of creativity, or creative freedom, in terms of how you play the chanter. The drones are they're just there. But the regulators, some people don't play regulators at all. Some people play them extensively. Joey Abarta is a really well-known American piper, and he percusses on them. He can play them gentle, but he also tends to work on them. And you play, so my fingers are playing the chanter, this elbow's feeding the bag, this bag is putting the air in, and then I play the regulators with my right wrist, just by tapping down as I'm playing. So there is kind of a lot going on when you play.
So, like with Indian music, the drone is like the shruti box. It's just there to accompany the entire time thing.
Right. And people now, they're tuning them in different ways. Mine are tuned very traditional in the notes that they're playing, but there's been so much development with piping just in the past, say, 20 years. And so I expect, that there will continue to be development, technological developments, musical developments, etc.
Now, are the pipes like an accordion in that each accordion is a different note, or can you get all the notes out of one?
That's a great question. So the melody, the chanter, is typically made to play certain keys. The traditional key that I'm playing actually was not the traditional key that was played in Ireland 300 years ago. They tended to play what we would call flat sets. So their bass notes would have been C, C sharp, B flat, B. And they're quieter. So that for playing in a parlor, playing for patrons, that worked well. Well, when the pipes came to America, there were a couple pipe makers. They were playing in dance halls and theaters, vaudeville, and they weren't loud enough. So they made a new development and they tuned it to the key of D. Now on my chanter, you can see a little bit. So the bass key is concert D, 440, but then there are extra keys on here that will allow me to play some other notes. You can have as many, I think, as 5 on here. So it could technically be considered a chromatic instrument where you could hit every sharp and flat, but that's really not necessary for Irish music. But like I said, they're being used for a lot of different things. And so my chanter is tuned to the key of D, so I can pretty easily play tunes in D, G, believe it or not, A minor, I think maybe E flat. There's a couple others that it works. But yeah, like accordions, or maybe a CD, and they're tuned to that. Yeah, I can't change the tuning of this chanter. I can accommodate.
So do you have multiple chanters depending on what you want to play, so you can just swap that out?
You can do that, and a lot of people have multiple sets. So this is a concert D set. Everything's tuned to that bass note of D. People will have what they call a flat set. And the drones and the regulators and everything are tuned to whatever that chanter, that key is. So professional pipers, it's not uncommon for them to have, well, they might actually have quite a few, but they would definitely have at least a concert D set, and they would have what we would call a flat set. And so those are great for playing like in really anywhere, but it's just a different sound. But that's how piping would have sounded, literally 300 years ago.
Well, I want to get into this a lot more, but how about we hear one of your pieces?
Yeah, let's start out. I'd like to play an air, a slow air. So that
what is an air?
Yeah, I was going to say, so a slow air in Irish traditional music, there's always a backstory to Irish music, and an air, they tend to be sad. Oftentimes they're related to battles, or they may be related to love lost. But it gives, for pipes, it gives an opportunity to kind of show off what the instrument can do, as opposed to when you start playing jigs and reels, you kind of get on with business and you're moving. So I'm going to play an air called the Uilleann, and it's an old air, probably from mid-1800s. And then, so here we go.
playing the Uilleann Pipes, the Irish Pipes for us, doing a slow air. And next Saturday, a week from today, the 2nd of November, is International Uilleann Pipe Day. Is that right?
That is exactly right.
And Charlottesville, small spot on the globe, but we have some major Irish pipers coming in to lead some workshops and perform, don't we?
Yeah, BRIMS has been extremely supportive, and it's been exciting to develop an Uilleann piping program here in Charlottesville. And as part of that program, which we'll talk about some of the components, but are the workshops. And these are bringing in professional players from Ireland, from America, but these are the top level players. These are, most all of them are professional. They do piping for a living. They're just incredible. So at this event, and again in small little Charlottesville, next Saturday, we're going to have probably 20 or 21 Uilleann pipers in workshops and classes that are geared towards where along the path, we kind of think of it, it's a learning path, it's a journey. It's not, well, are you, better than this person? Because better is very ambiguous.
Subjective, yeah.
But we have beginner classes, intermediate, and advanced classes, and these instructors coming in will move between these classes so that every piper gets a chance to benefit from what are basically just incredibly high-level pipers, people in their field. And I'm excited. And we've done this. This is our 4th. Believe it or not. So we've been doing 2 a year. And this year we're bringing in Patrick D'Arcy. He's an Uilleann piper. He's currently in Nashville. And just as it turns out, Eamon Dillon, who's was born in Ireland. I think actually Patrick was born in Ireland as well. But Eamon Dillon is also from Nashville. So I kind of think we're bringing the Nashville boys to Charlottesville. And we're so excited to have that. It's just an incredible high level of ability. You listen to them play for pipers, and it just kind of melts your heart to see what they're able to do with this instrument.
Now, I understand there may be 1, maybe 2 slots left for the intermediate advanced. Is that right?
If you are an Uilleann piper, so this event is not geared towards like teaching people who have never played pipes. But if you have a practice set, which is where people generally start, a practice set isn't everything that's on my lap. That's pretty overwhelming. A practice set is just the bellows, the bag, and a chanter, because it's a pretty steep learning curve initially, but it's the same thing. If you practice, you'll get better. So, yeah, we're so excited. So if you're a piper and you've got your pipes and you want to come, there may still be a couple spots. So yeah, go to brimstunes.org and go to the piping. We've got a really nice piping program tab on there.
Well, we talked about Patrick and Eamon, but we should also mention that Brandon Davis is going to be here as well next.
Thank you for reminding me. Sorry, Brandon, if you're watching or listening. Brandon is a piper from Roanoke, Virginia. And like many U.S. pipers, he started out in Highland pipes. And we talked a little bit about the Highland pipe earlier. But he became interested in Uilleann pipes. And he's been playing Uilleann pipes now for 15 or 20 years. So he's going to take a really big portion of our beginner program, and he's just a great guy. He has been a real important component to developing this entire program and all the things that we offer through BRIMS for Uilleann piping, in addition to all the other programs that BRIMS offers.
Now, we should mention you are, as I said earlier, an instructor at BRIMS for the pipes. How did you get into playing the pipes and learning the pipes?
The quick answer is someone, a very nice man, Nick Whitmer, 33 years ago, I heard that sound. I heard the sound of the chanter, and that's what gets into people's brains. There's something about it, and it got in my brain. And so he made me a half set of pipes, again, not everything that's here. And then I started, but then I very quickly put them in a closet. So they sat in a closet, moved around with me through various states and places for 30 years. And during the second full year of COVID, I couldn't handle being locked down anymore. It was tough for a lot of people. And I thought I need to do something. And I thought, I have pipes. So I pulled them out. I got them re-reeded, new reeds, and I started taking online class because Zoom instruction just kind of blew up, and it was perfect because there wasn't really a piper. There was definitely not a piper at the level of my instructors anywhere in Charlottesville. We've had other pipers come through, and there's some other pipers in Charlottesville now with our program. So I started taking just Zoom lessons during COVID, and so this is what 4 years of a lot of practice and a lot of reed frustration, and that's what you get when you get me.
Now, I'm looking, of course, you've got the full pipes on your lap, but you've got this sparkly thing next to you. Let's talk about what that is.
So when I was first, we were taking and advertising the BRIMS piping program, we would have parents say, well, how old does my child need to be to play the Uilleann Pipes? And I said, well, it's around 10, but I thought, God, I don't want to be the gatekeeper. So what I did is I developed, it's got a cute little name, which doesn't matter, but this is just a finger test chanter. The holes are in the exact place as they are on mine, but it's just made out of PVC, and the colors, kids see this and it draws them to it. So the point is, if they can cover the holes with their fingers and their hand, that means their hands are large enough, then they're ready to start learning the pipes. And that could be anywhere from maybe 9 to 11-ish, and it depends. But if you were in Ireland, at the Willie Clancy Piping School, which they have a festival every year, it's amazing the number of 10 and 11-year-old boys and girls that are taking up pipes, and they're incredible. Kids are like a sponge. They learn so fast. So we really want to promote to our kids, to children.
Well, I want to talk more about that and so much more, including more about next Saturday's International Uilleann Pipes Day being celebrated right here in Charlottesville. But how about we get another one from you?
That sounds great. I'm going to play a couple jigs, and the first one is called the Miller's Maggot. I think a maggot was I've read, and I think most people think it's a unit of measure. So Miller may have been maybe a name. I don't know much about the tune. But then I'm going to follow it up with a tune that was recorded by someone in a community back in 1961 in a place called Scartaglen in Ireland, which happens to be about 8 miles from where my wife was born and grew up, in a pub called Lyon's Pub. The fiddler who played in that pub regularly, his name was Padraig O'Keefe, and he was considered a traveling fiddle player. And he would travel from Scartaglen to Castle Island and various other small little villages teaching the fiddle and playing tunes. And so I found a recording of this, on not the dark web, but on some back place. I don't know the name of it, but I liked it and it seemed to fit. So let's play those two. So the first one is Miller's Maggot, and the second one is just an unknown Padraig O'Keefe jig. Okay.
Seelye here at the stage at WTJU. Randy's an instructor at the Blue Ridge Irish Music School teaching Uilleann Irish Pipes. And we're celebrating International Irish Pipes Day next Saturday. And we've talked about the workshops where there's one or two possibly slots still open, but there's also going to be a concert in the evening, which I think is open to everyone, right?
Oh, definitely. So the concerts, when we bring in these piping instructors, and BRIMS obviously brings in lots of really top level musicians, but when we bring in pipers for a workshop, kind of the finale for the people who attend the workshop and the community is we get the benefit of hearing these men and women play. And so at Charlottesville Waldorf School, 7 o'clock this next coming Saturday, it'll be, we'll have Eamon will play, Eamon Dillon, and then our own harp instructor, Brenda Cox, and she's going to have some of her students on the stage to kind of split the piping. And boy, the Irish harp is incredible, and Brenda is just an amazing, amazing musician. And then we'll kind of end that concert with another set from Patrick D'Arcy. And so Eamon and Patrick have different styles of playing, so it's not like you're going to kind of hear the same thing, but it's a great opportunity for people to come and listen to what really is some of the best traditional Irish musicians in the United States. There's just no doubt about it.
And folks can go to brimstunes.org to get tickets for that and to find out more about the concert and the workshops as well, in case you happen to be a piper who wants to possibly squeeze in on that last one or two slots that are still open. Well, earlier you were talking about Willie Clancy, and you've been over there and been part of the Willie Clancy program, haven't you?
I've been lucky enough to go the last 3 years, and it's a week-long music instruction. It started off, I believe initially was really about piping, but now it's expanded into every instrument. Harmonica is huge in Ireland. But it's 6 full days of small group instruction, recitals, concerts, and then obviously, as they say it in Ireland, the crack in Milltown Malbay is, boy, it's incredible. So it's a small. There's no stoplight, there's no roundabout. It's one small little short road that has, I don't know, maybe 8 pubs, and from 11 or 12 o'clock in the day on, they're packed, and some of the best Irish music, sessions going on, and a lot of the pubs will have 3 or 4 sessions, one up front, one in the middle, one in the back, one in the beer garden. So it's a full immersion in traditional Irish music.
Well, and of course it's named for Willie Clancy because even though the Irish pipes have been around for, as you said, about 300 years or more, he kind of was the one who brought them back into style about 100 or so years ago, and he showed that you don't only just have to do traditional, but he was bringing classical and jazz into it as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think that the Irish pipes were at real risk of completely disappearing in Ireland back in the early 1900s. And at one point, I think it's speculated there might have been less than 20 pipers in the entire country. And there was a push by a lot of people. Willie Clancy was one. Leo Rosum. There are a lot of numbers and names, and unfortunately, if I try to name them all, I'm going to miss a bunch. But that really helped to revitalize the instrument. Two big groups. The Armagh Piping Group started actually, I think, a year or two before Napibri Uilleann, which is the Dublin Uilleann Piping Group. Those two groups, there's no doubt, they made a significant impact on bringing back the pipe. So where we literally had much less than 100 players 100 years ago, now it's worldwide, and there are easily, we're talking about thousands of players. The instrument is still, each one is still individually handmade, handcrafted. It's a breathing, living instrument, and they're not all made the same, so things don't interchange, which can be frustrating. But yeah, so it's benefiting from just a big push especially the last 30, 40 years.
Well, and I can't not discuss the Uilleann Pipes and not discuss a couple of great artists, including Killian Vallely, part of Lunasa, who's been here many a time, and my dear friend Paddy Keenan, who's called the Paganini of the Irish pipes. And his greatest regret still to this day was back in 1969 when he was boxing in Ireland, and the Beatles approached him asking if he would record with them, and he turned them down because he didn't feel like he was ready. But certainly Paddy Keenan's a name I know a lot of folks know out there.
Yeah, Paddy Keenan's got a really interesting history. At one point when he was in London, he kind of said, I've had enough of this, and literally he dumped his whole pipes in a trash dumpster. Well, one of his buddies had the wherewithal to get them out, so he took a little hiatus, and he was trying to figure out where he was going. I know that Paddy Keenan's dad and Killian's dad, who J.D. Vowley, him and his wife started the Armagh Club, they were friends, and so Uilleann, would have been around Paddy when Uilleann was a younger boy, and around the Keenan family. So there's a lot of overlap and interaction, But yeah, what Paddy has been able to do with the bagpipes is just Irish pipes is just unbelievable. And I have a really nice place in my heart for Uilleann. Uilleann has been one of the instructors that I've had the benefit of studying under. And I like the style that he plays, and he's just a good guy. He's in New York, so I can get him on Zoom. I don't have a time change. I don't have to worry about that. But yeah, those two definitely have had a big effect. And the bands they played in, obviously the Bothy Band, they were huge. They just had their reunion, which, boy, wouldn't I have loved to have gone to that? Wasn't able to. And then Uilleann playing with Lunasa, I think they've got to be in their late 20th year. And there's no doubt they're one of the great Irish traditional bands of our generation, for sure.
I think they're the Irish supergroup. I don't know of any, you too maybe feel the same way, that Lunas is the real Irish supergroup.
I do. There are other, in fairness, there are other groups that are very good. There are a lot of duos and trios that in Ireland, it's just amazing. And in America too, but the small little groups that pop up, and they're so darn good. The thing that I think about Lunasa has this, they have a complete sound. And they don't just play, one little bit of the Irish tradition. That they'll play things that have Spanish influence or Portuguese influence. So they're expanding out as well. But everyone in that band are just are top level musicians. And if you ever have a chance to go to a Lunasa concert, you should go because they're great.
And I want to be very clear, we've only talked about male pipers, but there's some amazing female pipers out there as well.
There are. And last weekend I had the opportunity to sit with an amazing female piper named Sheila Friel. Her and her sisters, all three sisters are again, incredible Irish traditional musicians. Sheila plays pipes. The other two sisters play flute and fiddle. But I was able to sit in a class with Sheila. She was like right here, and watch her play, listen to her play. She's so funny, and she has a particular style that she plays. She plays kind of wide open, but she's just incredible. But yeah, and there are women's piping groups at some of the Tonolls and events, and actually, funny you should say that. Our very first Tonoll, the instructor was Colleen Shanks, who is a piper born in, I think, Detroit, studied maybe under Al Purcell, who was a very well-known piper, but then she lives in Limerick, and that was during or right at the edge of COVID. So our very first piping workshop, we Zoomed her in from Limerick, Ireland, and it was a way that it kind of got our feet wet. It taught us how to run maybe a workshop, her play is just incredible. And she's different than all these other pipers. But I love the way she plays. She's an incredibly nice woman. She was. I saw her last weekend as well. She's great.
Before I ask you to play your final piece for us, I just want to mention again, we have got Randy Seelye with us. He's the instructor at BRIMS, the Blue Ridge Irish Music School, teaching Irish pipes. And you can go to brimstunes.org to find out how you can start taking classes. And he's got his own instrument creation there, so we can see if your children's hands or perhaps your hands are big enough to pick it up and start to learn. And let's talk one more time about the parts of an Irish pipe. You talked about.
Yeah, so these are the bellows. The air comes in through a small valve here. It's like a bellows that you would use on a fire. And so that was very familiar to, 18th century Ireland. There's a tube that you probably can't see. Thank you for bringing that up here. That runs across my stomach that goes in the bottom of the bag. Controlling the pressure in this bag is what makes the chanter do what it needs to do. So you put air into the bag, and then there's a direct line into the chanter. This plays the melody. And then down here, we call this the stock. And on the stock, you can have nothing on it, or you can have a whole bunch on it. And I've got 3 drones. One is tucked in way up here. You can't see it. And these 2 down here are drones. And then I have 3 regulators, which are tenor, baritone, and bass. And so this would be kind of considered a full set. Other people might add literally other drones, other regulators. So there's a lot of experimentation kind of still happening.
And those who are just listening, it kind of looks like he's got an octopus on his lap.
It does. It looks busy. So I was going to mention, so we have a couple specific programs. You mentioned, children, if they want to see if their fingers fit. Well, we do something called Try the Pipes. And Try the Pipes is where myself or another one of our pipers in Charlottesville will sit down with someone. It's a one-on-one experience. And we literally put on the bellows, the bag, and we give them a chanter. And they get a chance to actually make this instrument sound. And so we teach them a scale. Sometimes we teach them, Mary Had a Little Lamb, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, things that they already know. And so that's an experience, and almost everyone who moves into piping has a trial experience somewhere. So we do that through BRIMS. That's something free. We don't charge for it. You can see that again on the website. And then to help support that, people that the pipes can be very expensive. That's just the way it is. But we rent very inexpensive practice sets. We have them available for pipers that they think they want to learn. They're not committed to spending what could be thousands of dollars initially. And so we rent them at a very, very inexpensive cost with the contract agreement that they'll take a lesson. They have, we don't want them just sitting there. They have to take lessons, and then kind of to support that, I run a beginning piping class every other week at Charlottesville Waldorf School, where our beginning pipers can come in, and we're learning tunes, we're learning technique. Now, granted, I am not on the same level as Patrick D'Arcy or Eamon Dillon or Brandon, but I'm willing, and I have some ability. So all of those beginning pipers, we recommend to have a professional instructor as well. But this gives someone right in front of them that I can help them deal with their posture. Where's the bag at? Oh, you're squeezing it too hard. You're not, I can give them feedback immediately to supplement what they're getting online. And so that's really our full BRIMS piping program.
And again, check out brimstunes.org. And while you're there, you can find out more about the International Pipe Day next Saturday, which is going on, and that will close with a concert at 7 o'clock to which all are invited. And you can find details how to get tickets for that at brimstunes.org. Well, before I let you put your beautiful instrument away, how about we get one more from you?
Yeah, I'm going to play, some of these tunes. I'm going to look down. This jig's, because I'm a newer piper, these aren't things that I've been playing for years. So I pick things, and someone might say, well, why did you play something you just started learning a few weeks ago? Well, it's because I like the tune. And so, but that's what you do. You learn tunes, you learn technique. This is a jig called the Humours of Innistymen. And I learned this because when we were in Ireland, we did some traveling, and we went through the town or the village of Innistymen. And I thought I should know something about that. And so I don't really know any of the background of the tune, but it's a catchy tune. So here we go.
Randy Seelye from the Blue Ridge Irish Music School, their instructor in performing for us as we've been chatting about next week's International Uilleann Pipe Day happening as it happens here in Charlottesville at the Charlottesville Waldorf School, where BRIMS has its classes, and later in the day at 7 p.m. there's going to be a concert. All the details on that at brimstunes.org. Randy, thank you so much for stopping by WTJU.
Incredible. Thanks for having me. It's great. People that play this instrument, it's a love-hate thing. You know, you fight with the reeds, you fight with things, but the sounds that it makes are so unique. And so thanks for letting me come and play a few tunes for you guys.
Well, now you mentioned the reeds, and I wanted to ask you, is that like do you order those and those mailed to you? How does that come? And do you have to put them in water like with, is it a woodwind instrument?
It is. So the reeds, don't put them in water because that will immediately ruin them.
Okay.
I'm not sure if the camera is quite good enough, but it is a double reed, and they're made either from cane. Now they're making them from spruce, but they're a dry reed, and that's the reason that the humidity and temperature really affect it a lot. And so, no, they are, again, hand custom made to the specific chanter or to the specific part of the pipe set that you're trying to reed. That can be really challenging. We do not currently have any reed makers in Charlottesville. Now, there are some guys over towards Richmond and maybe some ladies kind of experimenting and making their own. But yeah, so if you need to get, say, your chanter rereeded, and unfortunately this was made by a gentleman in Dingle, Killian O'Brien. At the time, he's since retired, he was one of the top pipe makers in the world. So I needed a reed. I call him, he's like, well, I'm retired. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So he referred me to someone else, and so I actually got the reed I'm playing, believe it or not, came from Argentina. But the guy that makes those reeds knows Killian's chanters. So it can be a real challenging process. But no, you can't buy them. That you might see them for sale online, don't do that. If you might see Uilleann pipes on sale online, don't do that. Now, there are some good used things, but if you see a kit of Uilleann pipes for $350, you're not even getting $350 of wood. So everything is custom made, custom tuned, and a lot of pipers learn to make their own reeds because of that.
So when you need to replace the reed, you have to send the instrument out, or will they send you on like vacuum sealed?
No, you might have to send the instrument out. It kind of depends. If it's someone who has reeded your instrument, so unfortunately Nick, he's retired. So anything I need reeded done, I've got to go to another maker, and if they haven't made anything for a set like this, they're going to need my set. And so that means like either driving it to where they are or mailing it, and mailing has its issues. But yeah, so that's part of the, if you want an instrument that always is just perfect, a tin whistle is always what it is. But
which is why they always have the kids in Ireland start with a tin whistle.
Well, and there's a lot of kids playing tin whistles at BRIMS as well. And
yeah.
my grandchildren, they're playing tin whistles, but they started when they were 3 and 4, but I just taped over all the holes.
Gotcha.
So the only note they can play is D.
Okay.
It works perfect with the pipes. But yeah, so no, everything is custom, and that is one of the particular challenges. And we've got a list of makers and reed makers that I'm working on with some other people around the U.S. so that when people get to that point, they know who they can call. And that stuff will eventually go up onto BRIMS tunes as well on our piping page.
Keep checking out brimstunes.org. And I know who we can call to close out the hour, and that's Alex Davis, who while you were playing had his fiddle upstairs in the air studio, was playing along with you. So, Alex, we're going to send things back up to you. Randy, thank you so much for stopping by WTJU.
Thank you so much.